This is Chycho. I've had some people ask me to do some book recommendations. So while we're waiting for the next batch of videos to be done, I figured I'd go through some books here and just throw some names out. Now, I got 5 books here for you guys. One of them is just straight up mathematics, just talking about how the language of mathematics works. It deals with calculus mainly, and it's basically for anyone who's taking calculus in grade 12 or anyone who's taking calculus, introductory calculus, either at first couple of years of university or towards the end of high school. I got 2 books here that are talking about some of the theories in mathematics, or just basically theories, some food for thought, I guess. One of them is sort of a history lesson on how one of the greatest ideas in physics about the known universe that we know of came about. And the 5th book is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best pieces of literature ever written that I've ever come across again. And this is all personal opinion, of course. Now, let's talk about the first book. The first book is Calculus. It's Calculus and Analytical Geometry by Anton. Now, this is the 3rd edition. I picked up this book during my university days. This was in late 1980s, early 1990s. Now, this is the 3rd edition, and I think it was published in the late 1980s. I have come across other calculus books, but this is the one that I keep on going back to. It has excellent examples. It covers a lot of topics. With my calculus, I've only gone through about 3/4 of this book, maybe. So, you know, it was good enough for me for a couple of years of university, for specifically techniques. One reason I really liked it because it had a lot of examples. Now, I'm not sure which print, or if this is still in print, this is in right now. So this is the 3rd edition I had, and it was, you know, let's say 1990 or towards the 1990 thereabouts, plus or minus. Well, it would be minus, I think. That was the last print run I came across, and it is definitely the calculus book I reference. So if you're interested in calculus, and it does cover functions and series and sequences and some pre-calculus stuff, so it's a great book for if you're, you know, just stepping into calculus to pick it up. And I talked about this before, but the first time I took calculus at university, I failed it. I got like 34%. I had no idea what I was doing. And I came across this book the second time I was taking calculus at a different university. And initially, I didn't know what I was doing. I just kept on doing the work because, you know, I had to pass the course. And I think it was about 2 months into the course where, when I was going through this, all of a sudden it just clicked for me. Calculus is just, you know, boom. You know, the language makes sense. So I went back, you know, it was about halfway through the course, basically. These are semester-based, so 4 months courses at university. So about halfway through the course, I ended up going back to the beginning and starting from page 1 of this again and going through everything, and it just became super easy. So this is the book I credit for teaching me calculus. And that's the straight-up math, just dealing with the language of mathematics. The second book is hands down one of my favorite books. I still haven't finished it. It's called Gödel, Escher, Bach. The last time I tried reading this book, actually it's by Douglas Hofstadter. The last time I tried reading this book was about 8 years ago, and I picked it up, and you know, before I picked it up, I have had, you know, this book has been in, or not this version, but one of the earlier print runs has been in the family for a long time, and I've tried reading it a few times, but I never really got into it. I never took the time. So last time I tried reading this book was about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and I picked it up and I started reading it. It took me a few months to get to, you know, page 105. That's as far as I got, and this book is about, you know, 750 pages. I got to page 105 and I realized that I didn't know enough to be able to finish this book. You know, I read reviews of this book while I was reading it and before I picked it up reading it. And after reading the reviews online, I realized that a lot of people were reviewing it. They hadn't read it from cover to cover. I've known about this book for over 20 years, and in that time, I've only come across 2 people who've read it from front to back. So that gives you an idea of what how intense this book is. One of the reviews I read online, which really gives you a pretty good idea of how intense this book is it compared it to giving birth. That's how painful it was. I didn't find it painful. I found it extremely intense and extremely humbling, because I would take it would take me maybe a week to read 10 pages. I would read paragraphs over 5 or 6 times, and then I would understand it and go on to another 3 or 4 pages, and then I would read something else, and something else would click, and I would go, oh my God, and I had to go back 10 pages. So I kept on going back and forward, and the furthest I got was 105 pages, and that's when I put it down, and I realized that I wasn't informed enough. I didn't know enough. I wasn't educated enough. I was simply put, I was too stupid to understand this book. I'm not sure if that's the best way of putting it, but that's how I felt. So Gödel, Escher, Bach by Douglas Hofstadter, highly recommended, and hopefully in a couple of years, or at some time when I have enough time, a few months put aside, I will go through this book and read it from cover to cover, and maybe write my own review about it. Now, this book did introduce me to one thing, or did teach me one very important thing. That was that I had to really sit down and learn a lot more about the world that I live in, and just thought patterns, and what it means to think. So after I was humbled, I put this book down and went on a few years of trying to educate myself. One of the first books I picked up, which it was a very quick read, was God's Equation by Amir the Aczel. I'm very bad with pronouncing names. And this is a very quick read. Now, I usually mark up any scientific books I get. I know that's a no-no for some people, but for me, I do it because I take notes. I mark things up, and I put little bookmarks in there, and I write in them and highlight stuff, because I usually end up using scientific books or philosophical books as reference. Now, this was a very quick read, very easy compared to Gödel, Escher, Bach, but very important. This book really made me understand what it means to learn something. This book is basically, the description is Einstein relativity and the expanding universe. And what it is goes through sort of a biography of how Einstein came up with the theory of general relativity and special relativity, and how he was able to get information from a whole bunch of different sources, and put it all together and present it, interpret it in his own way, and present his ideas that we've used in the Industrial Revolution. So this book taught me that I have to reference sources. It explained how Einstein went about contacting astronomers, physicists, mathematicians, technicians who were able to collect data to give him present the data where they could confirm his ideas. Okay, so Einstein didn't come up with his theories in one day or 1 week or 1 year. It took him, I forget what the time frame is, but it took him 10 years to present general relativity or special relativity. I can't remember which one. It's been a while since I read this, but it made me understand that the learning process is not it's not a 4-month course or a 1-year course, or it's just not, you just don't go, to high school and study and just learn something and then just put it aside. The learning process is incremental. You learn one thing and that kicks you off into something else, and you learn something else, and you take this information from specialists in their own fields. Einstein, he had to contact people who were much better at him in physics and mathematics to bounce off ideas. So this book I highly recommend, because it explained that everybody is not Tesla. Einstein was a genius, but one plug I'm going to put in there: if you get a chance, read anything or anything about or anything from Nikola Tesla if you can get your hands on it. And because that, to me, Tesla was a complete genius and made Einstein look like high school kid, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. Again, Einstein, which some people consider to be the most influential person in science, in physics, in our understanding of the universe and how we have been able to deal with our technological evolution, basically. He had to seek knowledge and information and help from a lot of different sources. So a very quick read, highly recommended. One of the other books I came across